All right, guys. So today we're going to talk about some drama unfolding in WWE with Vince McMahon and sexual assault allegations, man. I'm going to tell you guys now, these allegations are pretty tough. So if you got a weak stomach or you can't hear graphic details, you might want to turn from this one. Any kids in the room, get them out of the room because it's just bad. And it's a really sad day for me because I grew up in the 90s, a big fan of WWE and wrestling, and just to see everybody that you look up to as a child inevitably end up being a horrible person is just sucks. But hey, I guess that's the new way now. Check the video out. Let's go.
John Laurinaitis, a retired wrestler and head of the talent relations department for WWE. Now, this was filed in Connecticut because McMahon and Grant are both Connecticut citizens, and Connecticut is where WWE headquarters is based. Now, first, let me tell you, before we even get into this lawsuit, a couple of things. We are mentioning her name, Janel Grant, because she has chosen to be publicly identified. That's number one. Number two, this lawsuit includes very sexually explicit text messages and descriptions that we cannot show you here. We just will not do it.
It's pretty crazy that these are the women that these guys are sexually assaulting because he has a daughter that Stephanie kind of looks like her, and it's just like, what are you people on, man? Like, come on, guys. Goodness gracious, man.
But also to act for those who are afraid to speak out. I find that interesting because, as we have seen sometimes, when a high profile person is accused by one person, then others will come out too. One person's claims gets the ball rolling. Sometimes they aren't comfortable coming forward immediately. But just to let you know that Vince McMahon, he has already been accused by prior employees of trying to cover up their relationship. So some of this is not new. Having said that, when we get into the details of this, it's kind of unthinkable. But according to the lawsuit, Grant met Mr. McMahon in 2019 when they lived in the same building. Grant's attorneys say that she had been the full-time caregiver for her parents, who both died, and that the family home was lost in the parents' bankruptcy. The complaint explains that she was in a really low place in her life. Well, after being introduced to McMahon, he befriended her, showed her a lot of attention, allegedly offered her a role with WWE, told her that he would, help her life. Although what that role would be wasn't entirely clear in the beginning. And that seems to be something that McMahon allegedly took advantage of. You see, from the beginning, Grant alleges that McMahon would greet her in his underwear in his condo, pull her close to him.
Yeah, he did have more assault allegations come out a few years ago, actually, and they swept it under the rug. This is ironic, though.
With McMahon in exchange for a new role at WWE called Administrator Coordinator in the legal department. Now, while she started there, McMahon eventually transferred her to the Talent Relations Department, headed up by John Laurinaitis, again, a co-defendant in this case, a former wrestler. But despite Grant's alleged pleas to end this essentially quid pro quo sexual relationship with McMahon, it did not. And according to Grant, it only got worse. First, Grant says that McMahon would share sexually explicit photos and videos of her with men both inside and outside of the company, including TV production teams, executives, producers, crew, even a world famous athlete looking to sign with the WWE. This person is not identified in the lawsuit, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on. Then McMahon is accused of recruiting individuals to have sex with Grant or participate in threesomes. He also allegedly directed her to have sex with Mr. Laurinaitis, who's again named in the lawsuit. She was expected to perform sex acts at WWE headquarters before, during, and after work hours. And to give you an example of what we're talking about here and what she was allegedly subjected to, the lawsuit says that on May 9th, 2020, McMahon defecated on Grant's head during a threesome and commanded her to continue the sexual encounter with the third person referred to as McMahon's friend. She later learned that that third person was McMahon's physical therapist. And just going back to that other allegation about McMahon and Laura.
And this nasty chauvinistic spirit that's going around, like, and this is real. Like, I see this a lot in Atlanta where I live. Like, I know a lot of women, they got to deal with, like, just extremely inappropriate stuff at work because their bosses are just inappropriate people. To be honest, it's not even just women because it's men up here in Atlanta that's getting sexually assaulted at the jobs and stuff. And losing their jobs because they won't do certain things with women. We see it going on right now in the city of Atlanta. It's just crazy, like how like sex crazed everybody is now. Like, it's ridiculous, man.
Disruption, dizziness, exhaustion, rashes, weight loss, hair loss, and migraines. November 2019, Miss Grant informed Mr. McMahon that her doctor suggested that her symptoms stem from trauma and ongoing stress. McMahon mocked her, quote, emotional trauma, my ass. However, on November 20th, 2019, McMahon insisted that Miss Grant.
How did McMahon get those sexually explicit pictures of you, though? Why are you sending sexually explicit pictures to a married man? Whatever, though.
And the allegation is that McMahon used Grant as a sexual pawn to entice this WWE superstar to sign a new contract with the company. During the course of this event, or series of events, McMahon texted Grant a reminder that she was an enslaved object to him, saying, quote, I want to drive you lower and lower, so low that you might beg me to sell you. McMahon reportedly showered Grant with gifts financed by the WWE, including tickets to VIP events, gift cards worth thousands of dollars, clothing, jewelry, flowers, BMW, chef-catered dinners, a spa vacation. And then in January of 2022, McMahon had told Grant that his wife had found out.
Yo, let's rewind that back and let you guys hear what kind of disgusting stuff is going on in America at the top levels, man. Let me rewind that for you.
Sign saying that refusing would not only jeopardize McMahon, his family, and the company, but that she'd surely become a public headline, suffer reputational ruin, including from the pornographic content McMahon had captured, and face McMahon's legal resources. Conversely, McMahon reassured her that her signature would ensure his continued support and protection and safeguard her reputation. Ultimately, Miss Grant succumbed to the pressure and signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making. The lawsuit claims that multiple high-ranking employees at WWE knew about this sexual relationship, as well as assaults allegedly committed on Grant at the offices, but did nothing to stop it. Grant's legal team says that she is suffering from PTSD and has struggled with suicidal ideation. Now, this lawsuit has different claims or causes of action that I'm going to go into right now. And remember, in a civil case, the standard of proof is not beyond a reasonable doubt, like we have in a criminal case, but usually preponderance of the evidence. That's a lower standard, meaning that Grant has to show that more than likely this happened, more than 50% that these things happen, that they're true. So it is a lower standard, according to the lawsuit. Quote,
Wait, hold up. You mean to tell me this nigga got sex toys and he assaulting women with them and they're named after ex wrestlers? Like, like what does the Undertaker look like? Or you got a Yokozuna sex toy? Like, what does that look like? Like, that's great. This is crazy. Like, what's going on here? This is perversion at another level, bro. He has sex toys and he names them after his athletes that he's turned into superstars. Like, what kind of sick perversion is that, man? That's like, I'm just gonna keep it moving. It's crazy.
all sorts of degrading names. They tell her what other men have said about explicit photos and videos of her. He appears to also be scheduling sexual liaisons between Grant and other men like Laurinaitis. The text purportedly from McMahon also repeatedly tell Grant that if anyone were to find out about the relationship, she would lose her job and possibly face legal consequences. All right, so it's no secret that listening to stories like this McMahon one are tough to hear, and it just reminds you how dark life can be. And, talking to somebody about what you're feeling, what you're going through, that can be a really, really good thing because your mental health is so important. That is why we have partnered with BetterHelp. They're the sponsor of this episode of Sidebar. BetterHelp is online therapy that can match you to one of their 35,000 licensed therapists based on where you live, your preferences, your schedule. It's designed to be convenient. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can also switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. And look, therapy, it's not just about trauma. It is about so much more. It can be a place to work through the challenges that you face in all of your relationships, like in friends, work, family. But it's also helpful in that you can learn positive coping skills. You can learn how to set boundaries, how to feel empowered to be your best self. So if you're interested and you want to check out more, visit betterhelp.com/sidebar today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/sidebar. Let's quickly go through all of these counts. There are 9 here, and they're important to understand. So the first 2, they're asking the court for declaratory relief. You are basically asking for a court to set the record straight about someone's rights. So here, Grant is asking that the NDA that she signed be deemed illegal under federal law, namely the Speak Out Act.
So at this point, he's trying to do revenge porn, which is another crime. Like these man, people got to do better, man. Just stop being controlled by these sexual demons, man. Find the Most High and try to pray them off of you if you can. If you got a lot of sexual perversions going on, and, like I get it, I ain't here to judge nobody, but try to find solace and condolence in the scripture and ask the Most High to pray those bad demons off you, because you got a man that's finna lose his whole career he worked for. You got a woman that's been defamed and humiliated and treated like a garbage, and it's just all bad. Like, and the thing is, like, this lady's a grown woman. This ain't a little girl, so she agreed to do all this stuff too. It didn't become a problem, it looks like, until she got fired from the WWE, and then it became a problem. But before that, it wasn't a problem. So you guys got to put that into perspective too, you know.
Is negligence. That's when you have a legal duty to use reasonable care. You don't do that, and that causes injury or harm. Here, this negligence claim is against the WWE, namely that they failed as an employer who has the responsibility and duty to make sure their employees are safe and protected. Count 6 is civil battery against McMahon and the WWE. Now, that is about intentional, harmful, and offensive contact that McMahon allegedly engaged in on Grant. And there is one particular disturbing account that it's cited here where McMahon allegedly forced Grant to perform oral sex on him in a very, very graphic and violent scene. Now, she claims the WWE is liable for the battery, that they're legally liable, because they're legally liable for the actions of their chairman under a vicarious liability legal theory. That is where you hold companies on the hook for the actions of their employees who engage in wrongdoing if those actions are within the scope of their employment or they were done while they're on the job. Count 7 is also civil battery, except this time it's against the WWE and Laurinaitis. So specifically, these forced sexual contact or acts between Laurinaitis and Grant, including the ones that were done at his office in the WWE headquarters. Now, counts 8 and 9 are intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress. This is against McMahon, Laurinaitis, and the WWE. The basic idea is that they intended or should have known that their actions would cause Grant to suffer emotional distress. And she lists a number of extreme and outrageous forms of conduct, like with McMahon's text messages, sexual assault, trafficking, exploiting her. Laurinaitis, she claims, treated her like a sexual object, including forcing her to travel to his hotel for sexual activity. And the complaint highlights that he and McMahon were the bosses. We can't forget it. These were the supervisors. These were the bosses. That is such an important part of this lawsuit. Now, in terms of what she is looking for, what she's asking for in this lawsuit, A, invalidate the NDA. She could be able to speak about what happened. 2, compensatory and punitive.
We're gonna get ready to wrap this up here. I don't think it's too much to see here, guys. You guys can see what's going on, and it's bad. It's horrible. We got a lot of bad people in a lot of high positions of power taking advantage of people on the lower end of the totem pole, and we see it a lot. We see it going on in Georgia. We see it going on all over the world. It's not a color. It's not a. I used to think it was just men or it was just richer white men until I moved to Atlanta, and I found out that black men are doing the same thing in positions of power, and like P Diddy and a lot of these other allegations, and you got black women doing the same thing in positions of power, and I've heard that it's white women doing the same thing in positions of power, and it's just disgusting to. When you're in a position of power and a leadership position, you're expected to take the higher road and have a higher standard. And I want to see Americans get back to that higher road, a higher standard. Y'all enjoyed the video, you enjoyed the content. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't even got to tell you what to do. You know what to do. Peace.